My beloved child, I have seen your thoughts run like a herd of untamed horses, charging toward horizons that were never part of your portion, shattering the quiet I planted in your heart like a tender garden. You have believed that constant thinking is responsibility, that looking far ahead is a sign of maturity, that controlling every turn in the road is the only way to protect yourself. But you have not realized that these thoughts are riding you like riders of fear, pulling your soul toward desert regions I have not anointed for you. I did not create you to be a slave to imagined futures. I created you so you would know how to rest in me like a sparrow lying in the palm of spring, not understanding where the clouds go, yet still singing at dawn. You have grown so accustomed to the noise inside your own mind that you no longer notice you have slowly placed your trust in voices that are not mine. Voices that tell you that if you do not run ahead, you will fall behind. If you do not pre-calculate, you will be devoured. If you are not constantly vigilant about the future, you will die in the present. But I ask you this, since when does one chosen by me live like a survivor on a battlefield that was never theirs? I have seen the nights when you lay there, your body motionless, but your mind like a land full of thunder, bolts of anxiety piercing through every thought. You keep building disaster scenarios to avoid being caught off guard. Yet the more you defend yourself, the further peace steps back. I did not make a mistake when I arrange time in the rhythm of days. It is I who weigh out each sunrise and each sunset, so that you might learn a deep secret that my grace is always sufficient for today and never exists to feed the fear of tomorrow. Have you ever watched a flock of sheep sleeping in a field at night? They do not know where the wolves are, nor do they know exactly where tomorrow's path will lead. Yet they do not tremble, because their eyes rest on the shepherd. That is how I want your soul to be, not because you are naive, but because you rest in my protection. And there, you will no longer need control, that yoke which has crushed so many clever yet fragile hearts. You have thought that stability comes from seeing the entire road ahead, but my stability comes from knowing who is holding your hand. You seek safety in preparing for every possible scenario, but my safety is found in your trust that there are things I have intentionally kept from your sight to protect you from your own anxiety. When you rush into tomorrow with your imagination, you step out from under the covering of today, like a child running out of its mother's arms just to see what is at the window, only to panic when it realizes it is no longer being carried. Peace is not the product of control. Peace is the fruit of surrender. I see you striving every day to stabilize everything, yet with one light touch on a single small area, I can cause the entire world you built to collapse like a line of dominoes I never asked you to set up. I call you back, stand where I have placed you, and do not run toward the places I have not called you to. Every time you run ahead of me, you push yourself into dark zones where I have not lit a lamp. Every time you lag behind me out of fear, you miss the streams of water I have already caused to flow in the desert. I want you to walk in step with me, heartbeat by heartbeat, breath by breath, moment by moment, day by day. There are seasons when you try to accomplish every possibility entirely in your mind, as if you were the one carrying the whole weight of your own destiny. You ask me, what if I am wrong? What if I lose? But I ask you in return, what if you are right? What if you receive? What if I give you what you never dared to ask for? You always imagine failure before you imagine blessing. You use the energy of your thoughts to shield yourself from wounds that have never happened, not realizing you are scratching your own soul with the claws of fear. Worry about the future is only a fake storm inside the mind, while I am the true sky above it. You do not need to learn how to annihilate the storm. You only need to learn how to lift your eyes to me and see that the rain has no right to command your destiny. When you become still in me, the very things that once made you tremble suddenly become small, like a gust of wind brushing past a window, unable to topple a house founded on the rock. My child, I have not called you to live in mental fevers birthed by fear. I have called you into the rhythm of my peace, a rhythm like your own heartbeat, steady in your chest, not because you strain to keep it beating, but because I placed life in you from the beginning. Peace is the same. It is not something you must drag toward yourself by every possible effort. It is the atmosphere in which you are meant to breathe, coming to you moment by moment. When you let yourself fall into me, the storm of thoughts does not fade because you ignore it, but because I lay my hand upon your head, touch your chest, and reset the wires that have grown accustomed to panic. I do not soothe you with illusions. I realign you with truth. The truth is, this nothing in the future can crush you when your present belongs to me. No plan can slip out of my hand when your life has been sealed by my presence. The storm within you does not begin from the outside. It is ignited by small sparks of thought that you allow to run wild in your mind, each thought linking to the next until they form a vortex that pulls your soul away from its true anchor point. When you keep circling around the question, what will happen, your mind slowly drifts away from the foundation of, I am here. And in that invisible shift, you lose your sense of who you are in me. You no longer see yourself as a protected child, but as someone forced to swim alone in a boundless sea. You no longer hear me saying, do not be afraid. You only hear the waves shouting, you will drown, each time you leave my presence to chase a scenario. The storm grows another layer, as if it were grabbing your hand, pulling you away from the shores of peace. I see this, not to condemn you, but to remind you that the storm has no right to name you. Only I have the right to call you who you are. When you agree more with the wind than with my voice, you temporarily live as someone else, more tense, more suspicious, more closed, and that is not the pattern I etched into your soul. Do you remember Peter on the water that night? When I called him out of the boat, he truly walked on the waves as long as his eyes were fixed on me. In the moment his eyes and heart were aligned, the waves became nothing more than a backdrop for the miracle, and the wind only a soundtrack to the encounter between father and child. But when he began to see the wind, he became afraid. And when fear took the place of his gaze, he began to sink. The path from miracle to panic did not lie in the height of the waves, but in the direction of his focus. In the same way, you can be exactly where I called you to be, walking precisely on the word I spoke. Yet the moment you move your focus from me to the storm, your soul is immediately submerged in disoriented questions. You start measuring your worth by the intensity of your circumstances instead of by the steadiness of the one holding your hand. You say, maybe I lack faith, but the root goes deeper. You have allowed the storm to define reality instead of letting me define it. The wind cannot tell you who you are. The waves cannot write the ending of your story. They exist only as a backdrop for my glory to be revealed. When Peter cried out, Lord, save me, and I took hold of him, the solution was not that the wind suddenly calmed, but that his hand was once again in mine. That is where true alignment begins. The storm of thoughts inside you operates like the weather that night, at first just ripples of worry, then waves of what if, and finally the howling gusts of surely I will fail. When you allow these thoughts to go untested by my truth, they begin to draw a false map for your soul. You start seeing yourself as someone who must handle everything alone, who must always be on guard, who must outrun every danger. And the identity of I am a child being kept gradually turns into, I am a lone survivor in battle. The enemy does not need to change your circumstances to steal your peace. It only needs to change the story you tell yourself about those circumstances. It whispers that you are alone, that I am distant, that if you do not consider every worst-case scenario, you are irresponsible, and each time you agree, you build yet another wall between you and what I have said. But I come to tear down those walls, not with a new storm, but with a gentle yet piercing question. Why do you doubt? Am I not still standing on the very waters you fear? When you dare to face that question, you begin to remember to whom you belong, and your alignment slowly returns to its true axis. I want you to see that the storm is not always the enemy. It can become a classroom if you allow me to be the teacher. Only in the midst of strong winds do you discover what your feet are truly standing on. Only in the midst of rising waves do you discover which voice you truly believe. When everything is calm, you can imagine that you have placed all your trust in me. But when the storm of thoughts rises, what you truly believe will take shape. I do not allow the storm to come to shame you. I permit it to expose the fractures so I may mend them in deeper ways. Every time you turn your eyes away from the waves and look back to me, you are choosing your position again from victim of circumstance to the one called to walk with the Father. Every time you choose to speak to me about your fear rather than speak to your fear about your fear, you are reclaiming authority for my voice in your heart. And every time you remain silent in my presence, even while the storm has not yet faded, you are learning a skill of the kingdom to stand firm, not because the wind stops, but because your heart knows where to anchor. You must understand that true grounding is not a feeling, but a covenant. There will be days when you feel as though I am distant, as though my promise is vague, as though the future is empty. But that feeling is nothing more than a mist covering the ground, unable to alter the shape of the mountain beneath. My covenant with you that I am the Father. You are my child. I am with you. I lead you does not tremble just because your mind is in a storm. When you learn to speak to your own soul, though the waves rise, I belong to him, though the wind is strong. He is the one who holds my hand. You are using your own mouth to walk alongside truth. This is when the storm begins to lose its authority to define you. It may still soak your clothing, but it can no longer pull you from the boat of grace. I want you to practice this not only in dramatic moments, but in ordinary days when your mind begins to drift. Come back. Call my name. Breathe deeply. And remind yourself that true reality does not lie in the scenarios you imagine, but in my hand resting on your shoulder right now. Therefore, when you catch yourself looking again at the waves, do not condemn yourself or flee. Do what Peter did, cry out to me, and let me grasp your hand once more. I do not reproach you for being afraid. I simply do not want you to let that fear steal the true identity that has already been sealed by the blood of my Son. I pull your mind out of the storm not by scolding you, but by reminding you of your name in me until it becomes louder than the wind. I bring you back to the starting point. You are not the sum of every what if in your head. You are the child I call by name, the one I protect with my hand, the one I lead through every season. When you receive this again, the heart begins to breathe in rhythm, like a compass set back to true north. And my peace, the peace that surpasses all understanding, will guard both your heart and your mind. The storm does not only tear apart what is outside, it tempts you to believe the sweetest lie the enemy ever created. No one is coming to save you. You must save yourself. When the wind begins to scream within you, everything feels as though it stands against you, and you feel that if you do not find an escape immediately, you will drown. I have seen those moments. When you sit alone in a room bathed in light, yet your mind is a dark, rainy sky. When you grab your phone, scroll through social media hoping that scattered phrases will give you an answer. Or when you throw yourself into work, doing more, striving to prove your worth with immediate results, because you think endless action will save you from collapse. But you do not realize that the storm is not what kills you. The panic in the storm is what pulls you under. I do not silence the wind so that you may consider yourself strong. I allow it to come so you may learn that some battles are only won by stopping your struggle and placing your trembling hand into mine. My child, I have seen you run from the room when sudden anxiety strikes, only to stand among the crowded streets and feel more alone than ever. I have seen you toss in your bed at 2 a.m, weaving catastrophe after catastrophe in your mind because you believe that if you imagine enough worst-case scenarios, you will hurt less when they arrive. You think you are preparing yourself, but in truth, you are tormenting yourself in a future that never existed. The storm in your mind persuades you to believe in the survival instinct. Protect yourself. Calculate for yourself. Carry everything yourself. But you were not born to live alone by the instinct of beasts. You were born from my breath, in my image, and you were called to live by faith, not by fear. I did not form you to curl up like a wanderer in a desert night. I formed you to walk like one who knows he has shelter. There are days when you believe that accepting help is weakness, that relying on me is a sign of failure. You do not say it aloud, but your heart whispers, if I do not try harder, everything will collapse. In that very moment, you unknowingly place yourself on the throne of divinity. You turn yourself into the provider, the savior, the only one who can determine the future. And so when everything exceeds your capacity, you feel as though you are sinking to the bottom of the sea, not because I abandoned you, but because you pushed me out of the place that belonged to me in your life. You must understand this truth when you take upon yourself the role of the rescuer. You will burn out, because you were never created to carry that mantle. I am the rescuer, and you are the child I care for. To reverse those roles is how the storm wins. Look back at the times you tried to save yourself. You swallowed your tears so no one would see your weakness. You forced a smile in conversations to hide the days your heart was collapsing. You accepted toxic relationships because you feared loneliness more than wounds. You took on jobs that did not fit you because you believed passing them up meant losing the last good chance. You thought you were strong, but it was only fear wearing the cloak of courage. I do not love you because you pretend to be okay. I love you when you are honest to the very core, when you fall, when you are weak, when you say, Lord, I cannot anymore. In that moment, you no longer resist me, and I can stretch my hand to pull you above the waters. The storm makes you think that if you let go, you will drown, but in truth, only when you let go do I lift you. You have seen this in Peter's story. He began to sink when he believed he must withstand the wind by his own strength. But in the moment he cried out, Lord, save me. My hand instantly reached him. I do not expect you to fight on your own until you collapse before calling me. I want you to call me at the first sound of the wind. The sooner you realize you do not need to save yourself, the faster you return to your true position, the one I hold, not the one struggling in the sea. I speak this so your soul may breathe again. You do not need to be the captain in the storm. You only need to be the child in my arms. When you live this way, you will see that strength does not come from controlling everything, but from knowing who you belong to, and the peace you have been searching for all this time does not come from resolving every situation, but from placing the storm in the hands of the one who can command it. Be still. I do not require you to understand everything. I only ask you to hold my hand. You have grown accustomed to looking at the sky before you take a step, accustomed to searching for a map before every decision, believing that certainty is born from knowledge, when in truth, certainty is born from the hand you place in mine. You do not know how far the road ahead stretches, how many bends await, how many cliffs, how many cracks, and you call that unknowing danger. But I call it an invitation. You want light to shine from the horizon all the way to the foot of the mountain. Yet I place only a small oil lamp in your hand, because I want you to see by the rhythm of my heart, not by the controlling instinct of your soul. The world tells you that to have peace, you must know everything. You must calculate everything to avoid mistakes. You must see far to protect what is yours. But I say peace does not come from seeing the entire path. It comes from knowing who walks beside you. If you look at the darkness, you will tremble. If you look at every obstacle, you will grow weary. But if you look at my hand, every fear will vanish like breath before a gentle breeze. I have led many souls down narrow paths long before they ever saw what was ahead. I have held the hands of spiritual children and taught them to walk step by step, like a father guiding his child in the night. I do not lead them to the destination on the first day. I teach them to feel every footprint, every rhythm of movement, every moment of trust. Remember this, an oil lamp does not shine far, but it shines enough for you to take the next step. You long for the world's flashlight, the one that pierces the depths of the forest and illuminates the end of the road. But peace is not born from seeing everything, it is born from knowing that I will never let go. You will want to rush toward what you have not yet touched, but I will place my hand on your shoulder so you may stand still. Hear the gentle rustle of leaves, hear my footsteps, and learn how to move with me. For if you run ahead of me, you will lose your way. If you stop in fear, you will wither. Only when you hold my hand will you walk in the right rhythm. You once misunderstood spiritual maturity as understanding everything, decoding every sign, reading every line in the letter of the future. But maturity in me is not to know, it is to trust. There are lands I lead you into with no map, crafted by human hands, precisely because I do not want you to rely on the map. I want you to rely on me. You ask, if I do not calculate, will I fail? If I do not prepare, will I fall? But you forget there are valleys that can only be crossed through obedience, not strategy. There are doors that open not because you calculated correctly, but because I opened them with my authority. And there are people you will meet not because you arranged it well, but because I placed them on your path before you were born. I teach you to take my hand so that you no longer live like a traveler searching for the road, but like one being led by the master of the land you are walking through. When you were a child, you did not ask your father, "Where will you take me after the third turn? And how thick a coat should I pack?" You simply held your father's hand and walked. You did not analyze the pavement, count the steps, or examine the hinges of every door. You simply trusted that the arm guiding you would not let you fall. I am teaching you to return to that simplicity of faith, not because I want you weak, but because I want your true strength to be placed in its rightful place in me. The hardest roads are not those filled with obstacles, but those you walk by your own strength. For when you rely on your own strength, you are no longer my creation. You become someone who carries destiny alone. But when you put your hand in mine, you return to your true nature, no longer the master, but the heir, no longer the climber, but the one being led to the summit, no longer the wanderer in the night forest. but the one who walks with the one who sees all from the heights of heaven. I know you despise the feeling of not knowing. It unsettles you. It challenges your intellect. It makes you believe you are falling behind others, as though you are standing in darkness while everyone else sees the light. But it is within that darkness that I lay foundations. Night is not the absence of light. Night is where my light comes close. In the night, I teach you to listen instead of look, to sense instead of speculate, to be present instead of running away. I do not let you understand everything, because if you understood, you would not need me. You cannot see the road, because if you could see it, you would not cling to my hand. You do not know the timing, because if you did, you would not follow my rhythm. You would chase the beat of your own heart, and your own heart knows only survival, not glory. Peace does not come after the storm ceases. Peace is me standing in the storm. You have waited for the waves to calm, the clouds to break, the sky to clear before you dared to breathe. But you have not seen that true peace is never circumstance. It is my presence. You believe that when everything outside is stable, your heart will be still. But you do not yet know that the greatest storm is not in the sky, but inside the heart. I do not take you out of the storm before you meet me within it. For if I calm the storm too soon, you would believe your strength lies in tranquility, not in me. I allow the sea to rise so that you will learn that when you sink into me, nothing has authority over you. The storm does not come to devour you. It comes to reveal the foundation you stand upon. When you believe the storm must end for peace to exist, you have surrendered power to circumstance. When you know peace is me, you surrender power to the one who holds your hand. I have shown you many times when you are afraid. You try to control what you see. When you are at peace, you let me walk first. Peace is not the reward of the strong who conquer the tempest. Peace is the breath of the one who knows who rules the storm. You once fled every time the sky darkened. You rushed to beg me to pull you away from danger. But you never asked, "Where are you in this storm?" For I am never outside the storm. I stand in its heart. The center of the storm is the quietest place. No wind, no thunder, only a stream of stillness flowing like calm water. And that is where I set my throne in your soul, not on the outer ring where waves roar, but in the quiet point to which I lead you when you stop running and choose to stand beside me. You asked me to silence the waves, yet I did not. I simply placed my hand upon your shoulder and told you not to fear. I did not drive away the wind, but I stepped into your boat. When I entered, the sea did not disappear immediately, but your fear did. You must understand, this peace is not when the storm stops. Peace is when you no longer see the storm as a power. I do not train you to fight with noise. I train you to fight with stillness. The enemy does not fear agitation, it fears the silence of faith. When you stand beside me without panic, it knows you have stepped into a realm it cannot intrude. I bring you into the storm not to abandon you, but to teach you that my silence is not neglect, it is dominion. Many souls plead with me, "Please make everything peaceful so I can believe." But I answer, "Believe so you may see everything as peaceful." The spiritual order is always this, to believe and then see, not to see and then believe. You tell me, "Lord, give me a sign so I can step." But I say, "Step so you may see the sign." You want me to clear the path before you. Yet I want you to understand that if I remove every thorn, you will never discover how strong your roots truly are. I do not make your heart steady because you are in the right environment. I shape the environment because your heart stands in me. If peace comes only when the storm is gone, you will be a slave to the weather. But if peace comes from me, you will be master of every circumstance, not by your strength, but by my presence. I have never trained those I choose in palaces, but in valleys, not where crowds roar with approval, but where storms tear at them, so that when I bring them to heights of glory, they do not build halls for fear, but altars for me. You will wish that I take you out of the winds, because you think they ruin your journey, but in truth, they carry you toward the direction I desire. I do not let the storm tear you apart. I let it tear apart those deep places within you that you never knew existed. And when it passes, only what belongs to me stands firm in you: faith, obedience, and a soul that knows peace never lives outside it, resides where I have established my throne in your heart. I teach you to walk on waves so that you may know water is not the enemy. You saw the sea as a yawning abyss ready to swallow you, but I saw it as the threshold that would lead you to glory. You see waves as obstacles. I see them as roads. You believe the water will drag you into the depths. I use its surface to lift your steps above it. When I call you out of the boat, I am not testing you through danger. I am opening a new territory, the territory of those who belong to me, where the laws of physics bow before faith. You think strength comes from the safety of sand, but real strength comes when you place your heel upon what you cannot control. Waves are not meant to frighten you. They exist to expose what you are holding on to. If you cling to the boat, you will live like one who guards the cabin. If you cling to me, you will live like one who walks upon the sea. I do not require you to know how to swim. I only require you to know how to look at me. When you look at me, the gravity of eternity pulls you upward. When you look at the waves, the gravity of fear pulls you down. Have you ever seen anyone sink because they followed me? Those who sink are those who change their gaze, not those who change their path. To walk on waves does not require technique. It requires a heart willing to believe when reason resists. The boat is where your mind thinks it is still in control, but the waves are where you must surrender completely. I did not call you to be one who lives in safety. I called you to be one who knows me among the unpredictable. The world builds its life upon ground it can touch. I teach you to build your life upon my word, because my word is the true ground. It is upon the water you thought could never hold you that you will learn this truth. I do not need favorable conditions to raise you. I only need your eyes to rest in the right place. There are things that can only be revealed once you leave the shore. And I know that if I do not take you into the waves, you will never see your true nature. It is not the weak nature you imagined, but the nature of one marked by heaven. You think you are a small student. I see you as an heir to the power I have given. You look at unfinished tasks. I look at the royalty I placed within you from the beginning. When the waves lift, you tremble. When I lift you, you stand. The waves have made no covenant with you, but I already have. If I call you, I will sustain you. The enemy wants you to see waves as threats. I teach you to see waves as confirmations. Without them, you would never know how firm the feet of one who stands on me truly are. You once asked me, "Why do you let the wind rise?" And I answered, "So you may know whom you are listening to." The storm has no voice of its own. It only amplifies the voices within your heart. Storms echo fear, doubt, and self-disbelief. But when you are silent and listen to me, you will know that my voice is always recognizable. It never urges you to flee. It teaches you to keep walking. When you walk on waves, you are not merely overcoming fear. You are declaring that you belong to a different origin. You are no longer the product of circumstance. but the bearer of my royal authority, and from that day forward, the enemy can no longer threaten you with wind. He can only threaten those who have never stepped out of the boat. Once you have stood upon the sea, you will never again treat waves as something that can end you. I want you to understand a law: water does not drown you when I stand with you. What sinks you is not the depth of the sea, but the belief that you must keep yourself afloat. Water is simply matter and obeys my laws. Fear is the only thing that can pull you under. You are never defeated by circumstance. You are only defeated by the way you interpret it. I do not teach you to swim in the ocean of anxiety. I teach you to walk upon it. One step of faith is stronger than 1,000 frantic strokes of reason. When you remember that the surface beneath your feet holds because of my presence, not your ability, you will no longer doubt whether you are enough. Enough does not come from you. Enough comes from me, and I have already placed it within your soul. You often think that only storms reveal your weakness, that only pressure, crisis, and exhaustion show where you are breaking. But there is a deeper kind of light you have not yet understood, my peace. When I cover your soul with stillness, when the waves halt at the shore of your heart, when the sea becomes so quiet you can hear your own pulse. This is not a reward, it is a mirror. In peace, there is no place left to blame, no tempest left to accuse the circumstance, no storm to justify your frantic survival. And it is there that you begin to see what you are truly chasing. Some people use storms to hide from themselves, because in the chaos they have excuses to run and reasons to fear. But when I remove the storm, they must face their own heart. They are not running from the waves. They are running from the identity I placed within them. In peace, you no longer hear the outer noise, and the voices that once hid in the darkness of your motives will begin to rise. The fear of being forgotten disguises itself as responsibility. The hunger for control disguises itself as caution. The need for validation disguises itself as a desire to serve. And you often confuse these with purity. When you walk in the peace I give, those disguises collapse, like sand blown from the shore, revealing the rock beneath. You will realize that there were times you sought solutions not because I called you, but because you wanted to know what others would think. You will see that there were moments you pushed yourself, not out of love, but out of fear of being behind. You will discover that some holy dreams were not born from me, but from the hunger to prove yourself worthy. I do not expose to humiliate you, I expose to heal you. For if such motives grow in the dark, they will erode your soul as saltwater hollows stone. Some say, once I have peace, I will finally enjoy life. But the truth is that the peace I give does not come so you may avoid life. It comes so you may face life with my light. When there is no storm, you will know clearly whether you come to me because you love me or because you want me to fix your problems. You will see whether you serve because you are called or because you fear being forgotten. You will see whether you walk because of my blessing or because of jealousy over someone else's testimony. Peace becomes a lake without ripples, and your soul becomes the sky reflected upon it. Every stain of color appears sharp, undeniable. I do not ask you, why were you afraid? I ask you, in this stillness, what are you seeking? For that is the question that draws the boundary between the ones I choose and the ones who merely claim to be called. Peace makes you see that the things which seem contradictory within you are not contradictory at all. When you pursue my will, yet feel anxious under the gaze of the world, it is because my glory is not yet the reward you truly desire. When you say you trust me, yet still cling tightly to every future scenario, it is because you do not yet trust the hand that holds you. When you remind yourself you are the light, yet live as if hiding a candle in your sleeve. It is because you fear rejection more than missing my divine intention. Storms do not reveal these contradictions, for the wind drowns out the voice of the heart. Only when peace settles upon you do you hear each of your thoughts as a knock upon the door. And when you hear clearly enough, you know what you must surrender to, not because pressure forces you into a corner, but because the light within you no longer allows falsehood to exist. I do not use peace as sleeping medicine. I use peace as the surgeon's scalpel. A person only sees the tumor when the lights of the operating room are turned on, not when they are suppressing pain on the street. A warrior only sees the cracks in the blade when the forge has stopped hammering, not when the battlefield is still filled with smoke. The soul only sees its deepest fractures when the noise has faded and you stand in the stillness of my presence. Therefore, I do not give peace when you are ready. I give peace to make you ready. The ones who think they are fine when things are quiet are the ones who have not dared to look into themselves. The ones who feel suffocated in stillness are the ones I am calling back home. You thought strength meant silently enduring, hiding your exhaustion, and continuing as if you had never bled. But that is merely a reflex of a soul accustomed to living on the battlefield. When I place peace upon you, the fear of judgment dissolves like mist beneath the sun. And when there is no longer a reason to build walls, you begin to see yourself as I see you. In that silence, you no longer need to defend yourself with explanations or cloak yourself in a mask of confidence. I give you permission to be fragile. Weakness does not strip you of position. It only removes the disguise of the ego trying to appear sufficient. I do not wait for you to be steady before I come. I come so you may understand that it is within your trembling that I reveal the deepest kindness of my heart. A soul trembling while clinging to me is worth more than a proud heart standing in the storm without looking at me. You do not need to pretend you are strong, because true strength does not come from you. It comes from knowing exactly where to lean. There are times when you do not dare speak your pain because you fear that speaking it will make it more real. So you imprison yourself in heavy silence. But the peace I give is not that paralyzed silence. It is a space in which you can speak your weakness without being devoured by it. When you acknowledge your fracture, you step out of the shadow of self-deception, and when you step into the light, the cords binding your soul lose their power. I know there are wounds you do not dare name because you fear confession will become a curse. But when you say to me, I am tired, I am afraid, I cannot, none of those words make me abandon you. On the contrary, that is when you grant me permission to enter the places you once forbade me to touch. You do not lose when you admit you are weak. You only lose when you believe weakness makes you worthless. I never view dependence on me as failure, because only those who abide in me understand that dependence is the highest form of strength. To acknowledge weakness is not to bow before defeat, but to open the door so grace may enter. When you force yourself to understand everything, to endure alone, to prove you are rational and strong, you are trying to win a battle that was never yours to fight. I never asked you to face the storm with your own ability. I only asked you to take my hand. When you exhale and say, I do not know, the chains of control begin to crack. When you admit, I am not okay, the sky of your soul begins to open. When you look into my eyes and say, I need you, your spiritual anchor finds its place. There is no confession of yours that disappoints me, only the defensive silence that distances you from me, because it makes you believe that I love you only in your strongest versions. I want you to understand this weakness is not a flaw in your identity. It is the door through which I enter. A sealed vessel cannot receive water. A soul plastered shut with self-reliance cannot be refreshed by grace. I do not seek souls that cannot be touched. I seek souls that know how to open. Even those the world calls heroes had moments of collapse in the dark. Moses trembled before the burning bush. David wept in the cave. Elijah begged to die beneath the broom tree, and I did not abandon them. I stood beside their tears as I stand beside your pain. Not to accuse, but to carry. You want to become strong, but your strength does not begin by hiding fear. It begins by placing fear in my hands. Not everyone deserves the weakness you share, and I do not ask you to bare your heart before the world. I ask you only to bare your heart before me. People may not understand you. They may use your pain as a weapon against you, but I use your pain as a foundation. I do not see you through the mistakes etched into the past. I see you through the plan written from eternity. When you bring weakness to me, you do not disappoint me. You are doing what the greatest ones in Scripture have done. Only the souls who know how to weep in my presence can laugh in the glory I give. Only the hands trembling as they lay down the sword can receive the crown I bestow. Peace does not come to make you less tired. It comes to remind you who you are in me. When storms make you shrink, you live only to defend, evade, and react by instinct. But when I quiet the sea, you no longer live as prey chased by danger. You live as one who has been positioned. There are moments you believed you were inadequate because you measured yourself through battles you lost. But my peace strips judgment from memory and returns to you, my voice. You no longer hear the reprimand of the past, saying, "You failed." But you hear me saying, "You still belong to me." Peace does not erase your history, but it prevents your history from becoming your identity. It does not deny wounds you have endured, but it prevents wounds from determining your worth. And when your mind stops resisting, I begin to rewrite what you once believed falsely about yourself. One of the most subtle deceptions is thinking identity is determined by role. You believed that if you were not successful, you were useless if you were not noticed. You were invisible if you were not honored. You had no reason to exist. But the peace I place in your heart is like a bell striking those beliefs. It does not roar, yet its resonance is strong enough to shatter invisible walls. When you stop, no longer chasing validation, no longer building achievements, no longer seeking someone to confirm your worth, you see your soul in its purest state. No performance, no armor, only the truth that you are, my child. Many think they need accomplishments to gain identity, but identity is not built by achievements. It is bestowed when I call you by name. I do not give you identity after you become perfect. I give it before you even know how to walk. My peace is the soil where your true identity grows, not the identity you construct in desperation to survive. When you live in fear, you create defensive versions of yourself. I am stronger. I don't care. I am not hurt. Yet those versions exist only to avoid being seen. In peace, you no longer need them. You have a shoulder on which to lay down your exhaustion. And from that place, the greatest question arises: for what purpose did I create you? That question carries no shout, only a gentle invitation like the wind. Yet it is strong enough to pull you away from temporary performances and lead you back to your roots. I do not need you to become what the world appreciates. I need you to become what I thought of when I breathed life into your lungs for the first time. When I give peace, you finally become lucid enough to see there are dreams not born from my voice, but from fear of being forgotten. Ambitions not born from calling, but from envy. Relationships not built on love, but on terror of abandonment. Peace makes such motives fall from your hands like dry sand, leaving you with only one truth to hold: I belong to you. And the moment you utter those words, you step back into the land where identity is no longer rooted in comparison or expectation. It stands upon covenant. I do not send you to search for your identity like someone hunting for a needle in an ocean. I lead you back to where it rests, in my gaze upon you, not in the gaze of the world. People ask, how do I know if I'm living my true identity? The answer does not come through achievements, status, or applause. It comes when your soul can breathe without trembling. Those who live their true identity do not resemble challengers of the world. They are like rivers flowing beneath the earth, quiet, yet unstoppable. They do not need to fight criticism, because criticism cannot reach their roots. They do not chase spotlights, because they do not seek a stage as a home. My peace gives them an invisible garment, the garment of belonging. It does not write your name on the wall of human ambition. It writes your name in the moment I place my hand upon your shoulder and say, you are mine. There are moments when you tell yourself, I am silent. But in truth, your life is too loud. Noise is not only the voices of others, it is the chaos within your own mind. The questions crippled by anxiety before they are even born. The comparisons gnawing at your soul like wind, eroding cliffside stone. You have grown accustomed to seeking me in bright lights, in grand events, in trembling moments. But I am the one who walks in the gentle whisper. I do not need to roar at you, for you are, my child, not a stranger I must argue with to claim what is mine. When the voices of the old world have not yet faded, you cannot hear the deep melody I pour into you. My child, I do not speak through chaos. I speak through the ordered silence of eternity, not because I am weak, but because silence is the realm you must willingly enter, where you lower yourself before my voice rather than forcing me to shout through your noise. In the roar of life's storms, you react by instinct. In the silence I assign, you begin to discern there. Questions like, is it worth it? What do they think? Am I enough dissolve like mist beneath sunlight, not because you find all the answers, but because you realize you do not need every answer to keep going. My silence is not a gap in communication. It is the space I spread before you so your soul can shed the shells of fear. Like a jeweler placing raw gold into the furnace, not to destroy it, but to separate the impurities, I bring you into places without applause and without admiring eyes to remove the motivations that do not belong to the kingdom. You will discover a simple truth when your heart is still. One sentence from me is enough to lead you through an entire valley. And with just one soft touch of my word, your soul will know the way even if you do not know the destination. You once asked, Father, why do you not answer when I cry out? But you forget that a child screaming cannot hear the father kneeling beside him. You imagine I am far away, when I am so close that you would hear me, if only you become still, hearing my voice like a breeze brushing past your ear. I do not play hide and seek with you. I teach you to distinguish between the voice of truth and the voice of fear, disguised as wisdom. Noise pushes you to immediate action, hurried decisions, pursuits of the temporary. My voice leads you into steady rhythms, step by step, beat by beat, season by season. When you enter the silence I open for you, you will realize I never stopped speaking. You simply listened to voices louder than mine. I do not compete for your attention. I wait for you to offer it to me as the first sacrifice of your faith. In my silence I teach you what noise never can, how to live without owning the future and still be at peace. Noise makes you believe you must run ahead of life, must have answers for every problem, must prove your worth every day. But the silence I lay before you is an affirmation that your worth does not come from your ability to solve, it comes from knowing to whom you belong. When you become accustomed to that stillness, Everything that once threatened you becomes a marker of orientation. Whatever frightens you reveals where you do not yet trust me. Whatever unsettles you reveals where you have not surrendered. Whatever angers you reveals where you have placed your hope in the wrong place. I do not condemn you for these places. I open a door and lead you into a realm where I heal each fracture in your soul. And then, when you have learned to stand within silence, you understand that I was never silent. You remember how I blocked you from harmful decisions with sudden intuition, how I sent a stranger at the right moment to keep you from falling, how I turned the pain you thought unbearable into training ground for your growth. All of these were my words. You simply did not recognize them. I do not want you to hear me only through storms. I want you to know me on the most ordinary days, in the steady cadence of breathing, in the unnoticed glow of dawn. For when you learn to hear me in the quiet, no circumstance can steal your peace. No earthly voice can dim what I have written in your heart. You have always believed you must keep running, so you are not left behind. But it is that frantic rhythm that makes your soul short of breath and your heart drift away from the authority I have given you. In the silence I create, I take the scepter back from the hand of fear and place it in your hand as it was in the beginning. I do not correct you with thunder. I correct you with the enduring stillness you cannot purchase by effort. The quiet is where I pull your soul away from the erratic heartbeat of anxiety, where you no longer need to play the hero, where you return to the role of the child I love. Every heartbeat in that place no longer races after time, but walks in the eternity of my will. There, your heart no longer chases the mirages of the future, but learns to stand firm in my presence. You will see something the world will never grasp. The one who walks slowly with me always goes farther than the one who runs without me. Your heartbeat once followed the cry of fear, fear of losing opportunities, fear of being forgotten, fear that if you did not compete, you would be pushed out of the game. But I am not training you as a contender. I am training you as an heir who chooses timing according to the will of the Father. In the still place, I loosen each knot that has tightened around your soul, every lingering echo of the past, every word of criticism you mistook for destiny. The still place is not an empty desert. It is where I set a table before you, that you might eat piece, piece by piece, like bread from heaven. When you are willing to rest, I work, and when you try to resolve everything on your own, I stand still, because you have not yet given me room. I am not teaching you the speed of the world. I am teaching you the rhythm of the kingdom, where everything appears at the right time, for the right purpose, according to the right promise. And only when you stop will your heart finally hear my words. I have already gone ahead of you. You can stop running now. The stillness I give is not the interruption of failure, but the open space where your soul is restructured. You think you have been left behind, but in truth I am pulling you away from racetracks that were never yours. People build their plans in weeks, years, and achievement charts. I build your life in heartbeats that have been healed. I do not need you to be perfect before I speak. I only need you to be still enough to hear. I do not place you in the quiet to disconnect you. I place you there to cut off the connections that have been draining your life. When your soul stops resisting, when you cease trying to prove your worth, I begin to reorder your inner world. Gratitude first, trust at the center, and authority at the end. In that place, something happens as light as a breath, yet as sharp as a sword. You no longer chase after peace. Peace begins to chase after you. You ask me, but Father, am I being isolated? I answer you with a truth your heart does not yet know. Everyday loneliness is emptiness. But solitude in me is purpose. I pull you out of the crowd not to hide you, but to detox your soul from the noises that have shaped you into someone I never created. My heartbeat does not move with the mood of the market, nor sway with praise or the disappointed glances of people. When you fall into rhythm with me, you begin to see the difference between need and deserve, between urgent and ripe. The still place is the control room where I retune your heart to the key of heaven, so that you no longer walk like one frantically searching for water, but like one who carries a spring within. When your heart is right, your steps naturally become right without strain. Do not be afraid when all the sounds around you suddenly soften. It is a sign that I am bringing you into a phase of internal rewiring. You do not need to know everything I am doing in the foundation. You only need to trust that when I touch your heart, every underground current will shift. You will wake up one morning and realize that the fear has lessened. Not because the problem has vanished, but because you are no longer living by the heartbeat of that problem. I will teach you how to breathe again, not with a tightened throat, but with a chest open wide in my presence. From then on, you will no longer react out of pressure. You will act out of leading. And one day, as you stand among people, they will ask why you are so at peace. You will simply smile. Knowing a secret only you and I share, peace is not a place you arrive at. It is the rhythm I have set inside your heart. You think I only come when you pray loudly enough, when you cry desperately enough, or when you fall into a depth painful enough, but you do not know that I have never left my place. It is the stillness that lets you see. I have never stepped out of the sight line of your soul. When you rush, you imagine I am somewhere ahead, waiting for you to catch up. When you worry, you imagine I have fallen behind, unable to understand the fear you hold in your chest. But only when the noise in your mind subsides do you realize I have been standing beside you from the very beginning. The still place is like the moment you walk into a hospital room to visit a loved one lying there. You do not need to say anything. You simply hold their hand. And that presence speaks more than any philosophy. It is like when you sit on the front steps of your house in the late afternoon after a long, exhausting day. No one blames you. No one questions you. And you exhale so softly that even you are surprised, because your body has been waiting for that breath for so long. The still place is not emptiness. It is where you remain long enough to hear me whisper. I have never left. I do not arrive with thunder. I come in the open space your heart has finally quieted enough to notice. There are days you think I have ignored your prayers because nothing seems to be happening in your life, like a farmer waiting for rain over cracked fields. Staring at a sky so silent, you become convinced it has forgotten. But I am still working in the foundations. Just as when a doctor tells a patient that the medicine is taking effect, but the body needs time to adjust, healing often comes in silence, without noise, without explosive signs, moving slowly like warmth spreading along each fiber of muscle. That still place is where I wrap your heart the way a father pulls a blanket over your shoulders when you have fallen asleep on the couch from sheer exhaustion. You do not see it, but you wake up in peace. Many times you have thought the storm was proof that I am testing you, and the quiet was proof that I have abandoned you. But if you look closely, it is in the quiet that I place my hand on the deepest place within you. The world applauds when you stand strong against the wind, but only I know how much you tremble when you stand still in the storm. And in those very moments you will learn the most precious lesson. I do not need you to see me. I need you to trust that I am there. You have felt lonely in the middle of a crowd, lost among people laughing and talking, and you assumed I, too, stood outside that scene. But I was right there, in the corner of your vision that you kept overlooking, like a street lamp that never goes out, still shining for the one who comes home late, though no one ever thanks it. I am present in the smallest things, the driver who lifts your bag because he sees you are carrying too much. The sudden, "You've got this" from a friend who knows nothing of the storm inside you. Or the gaze of a child who looks at you as if it senses your pain, but lacks the words to say so. You think only spectacular miracles are signs of my intervention. But you have not noticed that my miracles are sometimes hidden in simple details, like the steady breathing in a night you were sure would be sleepless. I step into your life, not with smoke and fire, but with a kind of stillness that steadies your knees and persuades your heart to stop tormenting itself. When you learn to recognize these things, you will see that I do not merely rescue you from the storm. I have been standing in the midst of it long before it formed. The still place is where I remeasure the borders of your soul. What is your own voice? What is the echo of fear? And what is my guidance? You will remember the times I spoke very gently to you. Do not take that path. But in the noise of ambition, you dismissed it as mere fatigue. And you went on. And later sat with your head in your hands. I did not blame you. I simply laid my hand on your shoulder and told you. I was there. The still place is like the moment a technician turns off the music to listen to the engine. Not because the sound annoys them, but because they need quiet to know which axis is misaligned. I do that with your heart when I turn down the volume outside. It is not to make you suffer, but to help you hear how distorted the sound inside has become. You were never made for the surface. You were created to recognize the source. And the still place is the doorway that brings you back to the wellspring of life. When you learn to dwell in stillness, you begin to see what once confused you. I have answered your prayers through closed doors, through things you thought were losses, through deep sleep after many nights worn out from trying to control your own life. I do not rush in to rescue you when you are screaming. I rescue you at the very moment you quiet down and allow me to lead. The silent place matures you, not because you are forced to be quiet. The silent place matures you because it is the first time you accept that you do not need to know everything. And when you realize I have been there from the beginning, you will stop fearing the empty spaces, because you will know that emptiness is not absence. It is the space I create so your soul can breathe again. You once thought peace was a reward for those who withdraw from the battlefield, a small shelter for those who cannot handle pressure. But I did not build peace as a refuge of weakness. I built peace as the fortress of the chosen, as a wall surrounding those who belong to me, so they can step into doors others must break down with violence. Peace is not my whisper saying, "That's enough. Stop now." Peace is my hand on your shoulder saying, "Keep going. I am here." When your soul is at peace, you no longer have to prove your worth through frantic activity. You prove your worth by living in the authority I have given you. You will see that people who have peace are not those who avoid storms, but those who know the storm no longer has the right to dictate their direction. Peace does not slow you down. It causes you to walk with a steady rhythm, without needing to look back to see who is watching. That is why I teach you to be at rest before I lead you to the great crossroads of your life. You look at the world and see zeal, competition, noise, voices raised to assert their existence. You think you must be like them, that you must make enough noise so the world will remember your name. But I do not train you by the rules of the marketplace. I train you by the laws of heaven. It is not the one who speaks the most who is entrusted with authority, but the one who stands still in the place I assign. Peace does not suffocate the life force within you. It realigns its course, like a river shaken by a storm returning to its channel, gathering strength to break the ice when needed. When your soul is no longer swayed by praise or criticism, you begin to step onto ground. Few ever touch the place where maturity is not measured by applause, but by perseverance. I want you to understand something the world will never grasp. The truly strong one is not the person shouting in the middle of battle, but the one who remains silent because he knows the victory is already decided. The peace I give is not a retreat from responsibility. It is my permission for you to rest without losing your sense of purpose. Do you remember the time you were exhausted, sitting on a park bench as the late afternoon sun stretched across the ground? Feeling as though life was slipping out of your hands, I did not hand you a new plan. I did not speak of grand goals. I simply placed a quietness in your heart that slowed your breathing. And from that moment, you rose not because pressure pushed you forward, but because peace lifted you up. When peace is present, the tasks before you are no longer a heavy mountain climb, but become steady steps along a path whose stones have already been laid. You no longer walk just to avoid falling. You walk knowing that, even if you stumble, I am there to raise you. Peace does not make you smaller. It calls you back to the stature I have inscribed within your soul. When a person has not yet known true peace, they think peace is silence in the face of fear, a closing of the eyes to ignore what is threatening. But true peace does not hide from reality. It looks reality in the eye and places it under my authority. You do not need to avoid conflict to have peace. You only need to know that I am the one who holds every conflict. Like a trained soldier who knows the trajectory of bullets and the positions of ambush, yet remains calm because his commander stands behind him. I stand behind you in every step you take. Peace does not deny danger. It denies danger the right to rule your soul. It does not remove pain, but it removes the poison from that pain, allowing you to step into places others fear without losing who you are. And one day, when you stand in the very place that once made you tremble, you will see that I have built within you a kind of resilience you never knew existed. Without peace, you only know how to run or hide. With peace, you know how to wait. Without peace, you use strength to fight for a place. With peace, you let me open the door. Without peace, you live like a hired servant. With peace, you live like an heir. I did not create peace to make you complacent. I created peace so you would understand that even when the wind blows against you, you are still moving in the right direction because I walk with you. The world thinks peace is the end of the journey, but I use peace as the beginning. For when your heart is at rest, you will hear my voice more clearly than ever. Continue. I am here. My presence is your strength. You have passed through many seasons thinking you had to fight everything, as though the strong one is the person who rushes with a sword toward every incoming arrow. But true strength is not measured by how many battles you win. It is measured by how many battles you are calm enough not to enter. The peace I give is like an oil lamp in the night. It does not light the entire horizon, but it shines enough for you to know where to place your foot and where to stand still. When peace reigns within your soul, you realize that not every challenge must be answered. Not every provocation must be confronted. Not every attacker is truly an enemy. Some arrows are not aimed at you, but at your reaction. As long as you remain still, they will fall to the ground like meaningless dust. When you learn to listen to peace before you listen to fear, you will see me pointing to what you must face and removing my hand from what I want you to let go. Many times you have carried within you a misdirected fervor. You believed that if you did not respond instantly, you would lose. If you did not argue, you were weak. If you did not seize control, you had failed. But the peace I give does not turn you into a coward. It allows you to see your true purpose clearly. There are harsh words sent to drag your soul out of its orbit, but peace steps in like a pane of clear glass, helping you see through them without being wounded. When you stand still in peace, You no longer fight to prove that you are right. You simply stand as proof that you belong to me. I once showed you a strange thing. Sometimes silence is the strongest blow, because it forces the other person's emptiness to reveal itself. The world will never understand this, for it believes power lies in noise, but I hide power in stillness. I do not tell you to avoid battle. I teach you to discern which battles I have assigned to you, and which battles the enemy has laid out to drain you. You have argued online, confronted criticism, tightened your chest under the weight of misunderstanding glances. You thought you were defending your honor, but in truth, you were defending your wounded ego. Peace exposes the motives you hide behind the words, "I cannot stay silent." It peels back the layers of pride so you can see that many of the battles you enter are only to prove that you are worthy. But the one who walks in peace has nothing to prove. They only need to keep doing what I have given them, because my results will speak for them. I have never called you to fight in order to prove your value. I have called you to stand in the value I have already decreed over you. There are times when you think that walking away from a battle is a sign of failure, but there are surrenders that become the doorway into victory. You once tried to convince someone to understand you, tried to change a closed heart, tried to hold on to a relationship whose time had already expired. You thought that if you were more persistent, everything would return to what you hoped for. But peace came and whispered, "Not everything that breaks needs to be fixed. I do not want you to build a house on a rotten foundation. I want you to step out of places that no longer belong to you." When peace enters, you no longer cling to the battles of emotion. You begin to cling to the battles of destiny. You realize that what I want you to confront is not other people, but the deepest places in your own heart, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of losing expectations, the fear of standing alone before the future. Peace is a harsh yet gentle teacher. It forces you to face the question no one else can answer for you. Why do I want to win? If the answer is to defend yourself, to prove yourself, to surpass someone, peace will withdraw its strength from you until you realize you have been fighting for the wrong reason. But if you fight because of the calling I have placed within your soul, peace will stand behind you like an invisible army. I have placed within you a kind of spiritual radar when you step outside of peace. It is a sign you have entered the wrong battlefield. When you walk in peace, it is a sign that you are on the right path. Remember this, the enemy is not afraid when you are angry. He is afraid when you are at peace, because that peace is a declaration that control over your life no longer belongs to him. Pressure always shows up like a loud voice urging you to act immediately, as if everything will collapse if you do not choose in an instant. It paints scenes of loss, cloaks itself in urgency, makes you believe that standing still means missing out, that stillness is weakness, that not reacting is failure. But the peace I give is not the kind of peace that sits frozen in fear. It is the rest of one who knows they belong to a kingdom that needs no proof, no haste. When peace lives in you, pressure still raises its voice, but it is no longer a command, it is just a suggestion. In my stillness, you discover that some of your panic comes from your mind, not from my spirit. You learn that action is not the sign of progress. Acting at the right time is the sign of maturity. Those who stand still in me are not swept away by the wind. They stand like pillars anchored in stone. And it is that very steadiness that forces the storm to change direction. There are days when you want to run ahead to solve problems, arrange everything to satisfy your expectations, clear the road before the door opens, drag the future closer by your predictions. Pressure makes you think that if you do not act now, everything will fall out of rhythm, as if the door I open will automatically close if you do not rush through it. But peace looks straight through that deception and says, if it is a door I open, no one can shut it. You begin to understand that some kinds of time I give do not belong to you, and some things you call urgent are merely echoes of fear. Pressure makes you think that my silence is an empty space. Peace shows you it is a training ground. I am never in a hurry because I am never threatened. I am never rushed because I lack nothing. When you stand still in me, you are not standing at a confused crossroads. You are standing at the very center of my will, where the storm loses its power. Sometimes the pressure does not come from the outside, but from deep within you, from the standards you set for yourself, the expectations you strap onto your own shoulders, the inner judgments no one spoke, yet still thunder in your mind. You want to prove you are good enough, strong enough, worthy enough, wise enough to hold the future in your own hands. This inner pressure is more subtle than pressure from people, because it wears the garments of responsibility, discipline, and I must get this done. But my peace is like water seeping into dry ground. It startles you into realizing you have been straining to rescue yourself from burdens I never assigned to you. When peace comes, you see that you do not have to tense up. You do not have to know everything in advance. You do not have to force your heart into things I have not led you into. Standing still is not giving up. It is acknowledging your limits and yielding control back to me. For I never asked you to be the god of your own life. At times, pressure comes, even from good things, a great opportunity, a promising relationship, a door that opens at the exact moment you are longing for change. You think that if you do not seize it, you will lose the blessing, fall behind, or be overtaken by others. But my peace is the filter it tells you to pause, to breathe, to listen, not to kill the opportunity, but to help you discern what truly comes from me and what is only bait. Standing still in me helps you distinguish my promise from the allure of illusion. There are gifts that shine brightly yet do not carry my breath. There are opportunities that look like breakthroughs but hide chains inside. Peace teaches you that true blessing never requires you to scramble and fight for it. It finds you when you stand in the place I have assigned. The way the sunrise finds a mountain, even though it never stretches out its hand to ask. When pressure reaches its peak, standing still in me becomes a form of worship. The enemy wants you panicked, you remain still. He wants you to react, you stay quiet. He wants you to build walls out of anxiety, you open your heart in trust. You think quick reactions reveal strong survival instincts. But in my kingdom, quick reactions often reveal a lack of direction. I place you in fast-moving waters not to let you drown, but to teach you how to anchor your soul in me. A soul that knows how to stand still under pressure will never grow weaker. It is forged into an invisible weapon that makes every force of darkness back away. Standing still is not doing nothing. It is the most powerful spiritual act, taking your hands off and placing my hands over the place where action is truly needed. My child, you have often looked back with trembling eyes, as if past chapters were a storm still waiting to swallow you. You remember every wound, every rejection, every harsh word you swallowed, and your soul wonders, did I waste those years? Do the things that happened define me? I see how you hold yourself down under the weight of what is unfinished, as if your past were a room you always walk through in the dark, hands tracing every cold wall. But my beloved, I do not lead you back so you can be punished. I lead you back so that my peace may visit the places you do not dare to touch. What you thought were meaningless scratches are in fact contact points I have set where my peace may enter and perform miracles. Your past is not a set of pictures hung on the wall for you to stare at and sigh. Your past is a series of doors I have locked, so that today I may place the keys in your hand and invite you to open them in the light. You once thought that healing meant moving forward, forgetting everything that happened, living as though the seasons of pain never existed. But I tell you, healing is not running away from the truth. Healing is letting peace enter the truth. You cannot mend your soul by throwing a blanket over old memories. You can only be healed when I walk into the very place where you bled. You run from those days because you are afraid you will collapse again. But I do not take you back as a wounded victim. I take you back as a bearer of light. I go with you, my hand resting on your shoulder. And when the door opens, what you see is not demons waiting to devour you, but me standing there, having been there all along, waiting for you to come so that I might turn that dark room into a place where the night evaporates. Peace does not come to erase memories. Peace comes to free your memories from the tyranny of fear. My child, understand this deep truth. The enemy does not create your past. It only creates the way you look at your past, when it makes you believe that those events are proof that you are worthless, exhausted, a failure. In that very moment, it steals the right to interpret a right that belongs to me. But I am your father. I am the one who writes the story. And only I have the authority to say, this is what that means. The tears you have shed are not witnesses of failure. They are seeds I have buried. And in the right season, I will cause them to blossom. People look at suffering and conclude, this is the end of everything. I look at suffering and declare, this is where I begin. When my peace visits your past, it does not erase the old chapters. It changes the color of the ink from darkness to mystery, from shame to revelation, from loss to inheritance. You will come to realize that what you thought were wrong things were precisely the places where I had been forging you to be able to carry the glory that is coming. There were nights you lay staring at the ceiling, your mind replaying scenes of your life like broken tapes. And every time you remembered, you asked yourself, if only I had been stronger then, if only I hadn't stayed silent, if only I had chosen another path. You blamed yourself because you did not know that I was in the midst of those very moments, that I knew you were still weak, that I knew you were not yet mature enough to understand my equation. I did not judge you for your immaturity. I only want you to know that I never waste trembling footsteps. I have gathered all the roads you have walked, even the darkest stretches, and I have turned them into foundation stones. You do not have to live in the past to redeem the past. I have already redeemed it. What you need is to step in with me so that peace may touch what you have kept hidden. For wherever peace touches, pressure dies. You will be able to look back without trembling, to name those who hurt you without choking, to say, that happened, without feeling as if you are being swallowed whole. That is the sign that my peace has visited your past. And, my child, I want you to receive this as an unshakable revelation. I do not go back into your past to correct mistakes. I go back to rescue you from your misinterpretation. The years you were slandered were never meant to teach you that you are inferior. They were meant to teach you that human approval is a shadow that shifts with the light. The times you were abandoned were never meant to teach you that you are worthless. They were meant to teach you that your heart belongs only where I place it. Broken relationships, unfinished projects, dreams you felt too weak to pursue. All of these were classrooms I built with materials you did not understand at the time. But now, in my peace, the scattered pieces begin to form a picture. You will no longer fear looking back, because the past no longer has the strength to drag you down. It becomes a platform for you to step up from. Remember this, my beloved, my peace is not only for today or tomorrow, it is also the honored guest I send into your past. I do not rewrite your story with new ink. I write additional light upon the places that were once dim. When you allow peace to enter the old chapters, you are not only healed, you are restored in value, in meaning, and in identity. You no longer look at life through the lens of what was lost, but through the lens of the Father who was present in every minute, every second. And when you walk through your past with peace in your hand, you will know something no one can ever take from you. Not a single chapter of your life is out of place. Every one of them is a portion I chose to bring you to this very day. You used to think that what was binding you were the mistakes that happened, the decisions you wish you could redo, the moments of weakness that made you despise yourself. But I tell you the truth, old sins no longer have any power, because I removed them from the enemy's grip long before you knew how to name them. What hurts you is not the sin that was committed, but the way you look at it under the harsh light of self-condemnation. You gaze at the stains on your soul as if they were permanent records, and you believe that I am keeping ledgers, waiting for the day to collect a debt. But I am your Father. I do not count sins to bind you. I count the blood of my Son that was shed to break the chains from your neck. You carry guilt like a damp coat in the night cold, heavy, clinging to your skin, and you imagine that if you wear it long enough, I will consider it a fitting punishment. But I have never wanted you to live a bowed-down life. I want you to live a freed life. There have been nights you lay awake over tiny mistakes you thought were long buried in the years. You replayed words you spoke wrongly, actions you lacked the courage to repair, doors you slammed shut in fear. You looked at yourself as a soul unworthy to step into my holiness. But, my child, you forgot the most important thing. Peace does not come after you have done enough good. Peace comes when you allow me to touch the ugliest place you hide. You do not need to erase your history to be forgiven. You only need to let me step into that history. I do not wait for you to wash up before I embrace you. I embrace you while you are still covered in dust. The shame you keep hidden does not disgust me. It only breaks my heart, because you still believe you must carry a burden alone that I have already taken upon myself. My beloved child, let me tell you something no one dares to believe when they are exhausted. My peace does not merely forgive sin, it unlocks sin. Forgiveness is me removing the sentence from you. Peace is me removing the root that made you fall. Forgiveness frees you from the consequence. Peace frees you from the old nature. This goes deeper than you think, because sin is not only an action, it is the mindset and the identity you assign yourself after the action. When peace comes, you no longer live as someone who once failed. You live as someone who has been transformed. You discover that you no longer need to avoid your past, nor to justify yourself. You look at past sins the way you look at an extinguished candle it once burned. But now, it is only a harmless piece of wax. Its power no longer lies in the event, but in the memory, and I come to drain the poison from that memory. You ask me, Father, how can I stop my old sins from dragging me down? I answer, stop fighting sin, step into peace. Because to fight sin is to fix your eyes on it. To step into peace is to fix your eyes on me. You are not transformed by hating your mistakes, but by loving my light more than that darkness. You will not keep repeating old patterns once you realize you are no longer the old version of yourself. The enemy tries to press this thought into you. If you fell there once, you will fall again. But my peace says, if I lifted you in the past, I will lift you all the more. That is why you do not need to draw your sword against your past. You only need to walk past it as one who has been redeemed. Engrave this in your heart as a covenant. Peace sets you free from old sins not by denying the past, but by bringing the past into my light. When you step out of the night of shame, You will see that sin is no longer a badge of disgrace, but only a lesson completed. And from that place you will realize it was not sin that defeated you, it was my grace that defeated sin. You have long believed that peace means never being hurt again. That peace is placing your soul in a safe zone where nothing can touch it. But you have not yet understood what I am doing. Peace is not only a blanket covering pain, it is a blade forged from the very wounds that once cut you. You want me to apply ointment to erase every trace so that the past disappears as if it had never existed. But I leave the scars there. Not so you will remember the pain, but so you will remember that you survived. A wound is where blood flows. A scar is where victory has been sealed. A scar is evidence that pain no longer rules you, that the ground which once swallowed you cannot swallow you again. Because my hand has pulled you out of the depths, there are moments when you look back at yourself and feel ashamed of your falls, of the relationships that shattered, of the words that wounded others, of the opportunities you lost in moments of weakness. You see them as stains that keep you from lifting your head, as blows that knock your identity to the ground. You think the strong are those without scars, but, my child, the strong are those who know how to carry scars without trembling. The mature are not those who have never bled, but those who know their blood has been wiped clean by me. A scar no longer hurts. It simply reminds you that what was once a place of despair has become a doorway leading you into deeper understanding of me. I have never led you through pain just to leave you weaker. I lead you through pain so that no pain will ever again have the power to destroy you. Look at the people I have used, those who were once thought of as rejects. Souls, the world labeled as failures. Moses carried the scar of running away. Yet I turned that scar into the power of leadership. David carried the scar of betraying his own integrity. Yet I turned that scar into a song of repentance that brought healing to the world. Paul carried the scar of persecuting my people. Yet I turned that scar into a sword that overturned an entire old religious system. They did not walk wrapped in flawless glory. They walked with scars that opened doors for my glory. Without scars, they would have been only human. With scars, they became witnesses. I do not recycle the flawless. I resurrect those who have fallen. What you call failure is the very material I use to forge the weapons of the soul. If you remain in peace, you will understand what once made you weep. Yesterday is precisely what keeps you standing today. The peace I give does not say, forget it. The peace I give says, look at it in a new light. You do not have to sweep old memories under the rug. You only need to look at them through my eyes. When I touch a wound, it ceases to be a pit trying to swallow you and becomes the mark of a covenant. You no longer tremble every time you remember the fall. You rise with a quiet smile because you know that fall opened a door no one else could have taught you to walk through. The pain that once tried to drown you in silence, I turn into a war drum in the spiritual battle. When you meet someone who is hurting, you no longer speak only from logic, you speak from, I have been there. And it is that I have been there that makes other hearts break open into peace. No one truly trusts the one who has never bled, but everyone is moved by the words of someone who has survived. You ask me, Father, how does a scar become a weapon? I answer because the enemy never knows what to do with someone who is no longer afraid of pain. The first time it struck you, you panicked. The second time, you trembled. But when you learn to stand in peace, it realizes that pain is no longer a weapon. It has become an exam you have already passed. My silence in the moments when you thought you were abandoned was not distance. It was me teaching you that there are victories which do not require shouting, only standing still. You thought you had to fight by becoming hard. But the strongest weapon in my kingdom is not brute strength. It is a heart that has been wounded and yet still trusts me. The enemy may strike at old memories to stir up shame. But when peace covers you, it is only striking a wall with no door. You often think of peace as a condition that comes when everything outside is calm, when people stop stirring trouble, when circumstances stop testing you, when every external voice grows quiet. But I tell you, this peace is not a gift lying outside of you. It is a sanctuary I build inside you, and that sanctuary needs walls, gates, and boundaries. You cannot expect peace to remain if you fling open every door to every noise. You cannot desire a quiet mind, yet allow every word of the world to etch itself into your soul. My child, peace is an inheritance I give, but guarding that peace is a responsibility you must learn. Like a garden, peace must be tended. Not every seed deserves to be sown into your soil. Not every foot has the right to walk into the place where I am nurturing your soul. There are people who come with words that seem caring but actually sow fear. There are relationships that drain you slowly, like a jar with a hidden crack that you keep filling, only to find it empty again by morning. You think you are being compassionate. You think opening yourself is love, but love is not the absence of boundaries. Water does not overflow because of the storm alone, but because there are no levees. I did not call you to be an open field for everyone to trample. I called you to be a garden with paths, with fences, with a gate that opens only for those I send. You do not have to reject everyone, but you must learn to choose. The enemy does not always need a sword, a single piercing voice, a single heavy look. A single poisonous comparison can be enough to make your heart shake. Peace rarely dies in the heat of battle. It dies slowly in compromise. Look at your own life. There are times you join conversations you do not need, because you are afraid of being seen as distant. You listen to harsh judgments because you want to prove you are good enough. You take on responsibilities that were never yours because you fear disappointing others. All those actions have something in common. You bend the pillars of your peace just to remain in someone else's comfort zone. When you have no boundaries, you live according to the heartbeat of the crowd. When you have boundaries, you live according to my heartbeat. My child, not everyone who calls you friend deserves access to the holy space within you. Not everyone in need is a mission I have assigned to you. If you insist on carrying things I have not given you to carry, you will drop what I actually placed in your hands. Kindness is not the sacrifice of peace. Kindness is knowing where to place your peace. I see you panic when you set boundaries for the first time. You fear being misunderstood, fear being labeled selfish, fear being seen as someone who abandons others. But my child, the eyes of the world are not the standard by which I measure your soul. Peace does not need permission to be right. Boundaries do not need human approval to be reasonable. When you protect your peace, you are protecting the place where I meet you. No one has the right to enter the sanctuary I planted in your heart without going through me. Even if an invitation sounds wise, if I am not leading you into it, take a step back. Even if a relationship seems beautiful, if your heart is exhausted after every encounter, treat it as a sign that I am warning you. Your peace never lies. It knows who builds you up and who pulls you down. There is a truth you must remember. Holiness always has boundaries. Eden was not an open, endless field. It had paths, limits, and places not to touch. The temple had an outer court, a holy place, and a most holy place. Not everyone could enter every part. I did not design that structure to exclude. I designed it to protect. You must learn this something is only truly precious when it is kept apart from what is trivial. If you plant your peace in places where noise reigns, it will wither. But if you plant your peace where I lead you, it will take deep root. Lift up your head and remember, you do not owe anyone an explanation for your boundaries, because your boundaries are my way of protecting you. You believe that strength lies in endurance, that if you keep holding your breath, keep pleasing everyone, keep trying to meet their expectations, I will see your sacrifice and bless you. But, my child, many times I am waiting for you to learn a very simple word. Your soul is terrified of no. There are no's that are not a rejection of love, but a protection of the soul so that love is not suffocated. There are no's that are not selfishness, but the act of keeping the inner lamp from burning out before the time I intend to use it to guide others. Sometimes knowing how to say no is a form of worship. For when you refuse what I have not called you to, you are declaring that my name is greater than the expectations of people, and that my will deserves to be prioritized above every pleading voice outside. I have seen you nod again and again while your soul is torn, saying, "It's okay," while your heart is screaming in exhaustion. You bury yourself beneath phrases like, "Just this once. I can handle it. It's nothing," only to bury your face in your hands at night and ask me why your peace keeps shattering. You do not see that every time you open the door to something I did not send, you sell a sacred part of yourself to an empty demand. Not every opportunity is one that comes from me. Some opportunities are traps of the enemy disguised as responsibility. It does not make you fall through sin, it exhausts you through goodwill. And when you are exhausted, you cease to hear me clearly. For your mind is drowned in the echoes of countless promises you paid for with your own strength. Look closely at your life these days. There are people who come to you not because they respect you, but because they know you struggle to refuse. There are conversations meant only to drain your energy, returning nothing. There are burdens others should bear themselves, but they label them friendship, family, love, so they can move the weight onto your shoulders. Every time you try to solve their problems for them, you think you are doing something noble, but in truth, you are standing in my place, carrying a role only I have the strength to bear. When you step in, I step back. When you step back, I begin. You call it helping, but I call it trading away your peace. And peace is not something you may barter like coins in a market. It is the boundary protecting the sanctuary I placed within you. The world will tell you that refusing is heartless, not helping is cold, and keeping distance is selfish. But I ask you in my kingdom, which is more precious, the approval of others, or your soul? I never called you to answer every need. I never taught you to carry every fear, every pressure, every storm for everyone else. I only called you to live under my guidance. And when I ask you to say no, it is not a denial of compassion. It is so you do not turn yourself into the road for every foot to trample. Compassion is not allowing others to consume you. Compassion is offering only what I have sent you to offer. If you do not learn to choose, the enemy will choose for you. It will place in your life relationships that drain you, pleas that wear you down, false urgencies that rob you of direction. And once you are empty, it will whisper, "See, your peace was never real." You once asked me, "Father, how do I know when to say no?" And I answered, in the simplest way, if it steals your peace instead of expanding it, close the door. If, after a conversation, your heart sinks instead of being lifted, step back. If a request makes you feel used, do not explain, walk away. You do not need to prove your kindness by sacrificing yourself. A depleted heart cannot be a well for anyone. Remember, this peace is not a random emotion. It is the language of my spirit within you. When peace withdraws, that is me saying, not here, not now, not your assignment. You often think protecting peace means building walls, avoiding responsibility, avoiding difficult people, closing every door to minimize friction. But my child, peace is not a fortress you construct. Peace is territory within me. When you are in me, even among crowds, even in heavy conversations, even when people pull you into their expectations, your soul remains still, like an ancient tree rooted deep. Peace does not come from escaping life. It comes from moving through life with the posture of one who belongs to me. You will see that there are days when the wind blows fiercely, when the waves of life surge, when criticism strikes like hail. But when you stand in me, the storm touches only the surface, not the foundation. Look at the blacksmith. When he presses metal into the furnace, the hammer strikes repeatedly. Sparks burst in every direction. From the outside, it seems the metal is being tortured, but in the eyes of the smith, it is the process of forging the strongest blade. My peace is like the hands of the smith. When you stand in me, the heat of circumstance does not burn you, it tempers you. The blows of life do not fracture you, they shape you into the form I desire. You do not need to flee the blows, you only need to remain in me so they do not distort your soul. There are those who, when their mind is in turmoil, run to temporary anesthetics, loud music, hollow conversations, psychic addictions that help them forget their inner storm for a moment. But my child, I do not heal storms with noise. I heal them with my presence. I do not push down your thoughts. I change the atmosphere inside you so that thought no longer rules. When you choose to dwell in me, you do not drive fear out, you place fear before me. And whatever stands before me loses its power. No storm survives long in the climate of my presence. Remember the days you sat in a crowded cafe. All around was noise chairs scraping, voices rising, glasses clinking. But if you put on headphones and play the music you love, the world changes instantly. The cafe does not disappear. Your mind shifts to another frequency. Being in me is the same. I do not always silence the world, but I place you on a frequency where the noise of life cannot reach the inner core. Peace is not the absence of sound. It is the refusal of any sound but mine to determine your heartbeat. You once asked me, Father, what should I do to keep peace? And I answered, do not try to keep it. Abide in me. Peace is not a possession you must guard. It is the atmosphere I give you to breathe. You keep peace by choosing to remain where peace is born. When someone carries oxygen into the high mountains, they do not argue with the thin air. They put on the mask and breathe. So it is with you. Do not argue with the storm. Do not explain yourself to pressure. Do not seek the world's permission to rest. Wear me like your oxygen mask. Enter me each morning as one enters a sterile operating room. The world outside may be dirty, but in that space, nothing is permitted to touch you. I have seen the times when you were so exhausted that you no longer wanted to speak to anyone. You locked the door, turned off your phone, pulled a blanket over yourself even though the sun had not yet set. You thought, perhaps if everything goes quiet, I will find peace. But peace did not come, for you do not need the world to grow silent. You need my gentle voice within your heart. Peace is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of a voice strong enough to make every other voice grow small. And that voice is mine. I did not create peace as the prize at the end of the journey. I created peace as the atmosphere of those who know they belong to me. You once believed peace was a reward for you alone, like a cloak to cover your body, a house to hide in, a refuge when life becomes too loud. But I tell you something deeper. Peace is not only something you receive, peace is something you carry, like one who brings the fragrance of heaven into the heart of the world. When my peace truly abides in you, it is not still like stagnant water in a dried lake. It spreads like a stream, seeking a path, seeping into every soul around you without effort. You do not know why someone next to you feels at ease simply by sitting near you, why anxious hearts soften when they hear you speak, why someone weeps when resting their head on your shoulder without knowing why. It is not because you are perfect, nor because you are strong. It is because I dwell within you, and where I am present, unrest must bow. People may possess outward beauty, education, talent, influence, but a soul that knows how to dwell in me carries an invisible authority, the authority of stillness that calms every storm. You once thought that to help others you must speak much, explain thoroughly, offer sharp advice. But, my child, peace does not preach, peace establishes. When you step into a room, you do not need to say, "I bring peace." Your very breath has already shifted the atmosphere. I have placed within you a kind of light that no words can describe, the light of freedom from fear, from prediction, from the urge to control the future. That light does not burst like fireworks. It warms the minds of those who look at you and sense something quiet they do not possess. Look at the traveler crossing the desert. There is no speech, no banners, no explanations. Only a person walking slowly, unhurried, unafraid though the sun burns overhead. Those who walk beside him begin to follow his breathing rhythm, because they realize he has found a water source they have not seen. You are that traveler when my peace takes root in you. People will ask you, "Why are you not afraid? Why are you not in a hurry? Why do you not suffocate your heart with predictions?" And you will smile, not because you have the perfect answer, but because you know the one who walks with you. Some people I place beside you for only a few minutes, a driver, someone sitting beside you on a bus, a cashier handing you a receipt. You think it is coincidence, but it is not. I send them so they may breathe the atmosphere you carry. There, they inhale a gentleness they cannot find anywhere else. You have once met someone whose simple touch made you feel calm. I gave you that experience so you would understand peace is not knowledge, peace is transmission. When you live in me, you become a bridge through which others step into the rest they have never known how to reach by effort. Do not think peace is reserved for after the victory. Peace is my strategy in the battle. The enemy knows this well. He does not need to strike you if he can strike your heartbeat. He does not need to steal opportunities if he can steal your inner stillness. He does not need to ruin your dreams if he can make you believe you must save yourself. But when you are in me, he loses his leverage. Peace confuses the enemy because he does not know how to attack something anchored in me. A soul at peace in me can stand in the middle of the battlefield and say, "I am not losing, I am standing in the right place." And as long as you stand, you transmit peace to those who are tempted to flee. There will be days when you feel weak, unwilling to teach, unable to encourage, too drained to help. You think you are emptied out. But I tell you, peace is not something you do, peace is something you become. Even when you are tired, my atmosphere within you still heals others like the sun melting ice. Without the sun ever trying, do not try to prove your strength, simply remain in me. and you will watch broken hearts slow their racing. Weary eyes relearn how to breathe, and desperate souls feel hope rise within them without knowing why. You always believed that, to help a thirsty soul, you must have the right answers, complete wisdom, the perfect, comforting words. But I speak this to you when I place my peace within you. You do not need to say anything at all, you only need to stand. In the journey of my people through the wilderness, the pillar of cloud did not preach, did not shout, did not explain, it simply stood, and the whole nation knew when to move and when to stay. You are the same when my peace is anchored in your soul. Your presence becomes a spiritual signal. There are places you enter where the air changes color. The heartbeats in the room slow down. Conversations soften. And people no longer want to win, they want to understand one another. You do not need to display authority, you only need to remain in the place I assign you. Remember the day you entered a cafe, not to do anything important, simply to read. The server brought your drink, with exhaustion in their eyes. You did not preach. You did not pry. You simply offered a sincere smile and a thank you. I saw that moment, and I used it. Your gentle smile became a resting point for their mind, like dew upon hot stone. Through a seemingly anonymous gesture, you became a pillar of cloud in the desert of their life. Many times you do not know whom you have sheltered, because my peace works quietly. Like the shadow of a cloud upon the earth, it makes no sound, but everyone beneath it feels its presence. You have witnessed people in turmoil, a coworker whose hands trembled under pressure, a friend whose words came sharp though they were not malicious, a family member crying in a hidden room because they felt no one understood them. You thought you had to explain, to instruct, to pull them out of darkness with argument. But my child, I am not always calling you to speak. Many times I am calling you to stand. Like the pillar of cloud in the desert, just by being in the right place at the right time. You offer a new direction, their voice quiets, their eyes settle, their breath returns to their chest as though someone placed a hand on their shoulder without ever touching them. There are souls who pass through your life like travelers crossing the wilderness. They do not ask you for advice. They do not tell you their story. They only say, I don't know why, but talking to you makes me feel lighter. You think it is your kindness, but in truth, it is the spiritual climate I have placed within you. You are like a cloud drifting above it does not know it casts shade, but the earth beneath knows. It does not know it softens the heat, but the weary do. You do not need to measure effectiveness, for peace does not work by logic, peace works by presence. When you stand in me, you become a refuge that the world cannot find in anything it chases. The desert is not a place without voices, it is a place without water. People do not need more reasoning, more arguments, more conclusions. They need a cloud wide enough for them to breathe. You are that cloud when you are in me. You may not know how many souls have walked through your life just to take a single breath beneath your shade before continuing their journey. You are not the final resting station. You are merely the veil of shadow I use so they will not die of thirst along the way. And that is an honor far greater than any praise, to be used by me to save someone you will not even realize you have touched. When I place peace within you, I do not give it as a temporary gift to handle each incident, each weight, each difficult day. I give it as the seal of the kingdom assigned to the world that a soul has stepped out of the rhythm of earthly fear and entered the rhythm of heaven's breath. Eternal peace does not arrive like a passing breeze soothing a temporary wound. It comes like a river that roots itself into the deep core of your being. so that even in drought its waters cannot be drained. The world will ask you, why are you still calm, and you will not need to explain with philosophy. Your life will be the answer. When their eyes see the things that crush others no longer crush you, when they see you unmoved by every upheaval, they will understand that there is a source of peace beyond humanity working within you. True witnesses are not those who preach what they have never experienced. You become a witness when you have walked through the night and still kept your light, when you have once knelt beneath the weight, collapsed under fear, cried until no tears remained behind closed doors, then risen by a strength that did not come from willpower, but from me. Then you are inscribed among the witnesses. You are not one who does not know pain. You are one who has known it, has failed, has trembled, has doubted, and still returned to take my hand. That is what makes you living evidence. Peace is not a fairy tale, but a reality for those who know surrender. One day, you will look back at the old chapters of your life where you thought you were forgotten, where you thought you were abandoned, where you believed I stayed silent for too long, and you will realize I was kindling peace in you from those very places. It was not when your life was easy that I drew near. It was when your heart shattered that I planted the seed of eternal peace. When that seed takes root, it does not give birth to loud declarations. It gives birth to a quiet endurance. You begin to walk slower, speak less, listen deeper, and release burdens that were never yours to carry. Eternal peace does not turn you into someone who escapes the world. It makes you one who enters the world with the posture of someone who has seen a kingdom above it. There are souls I send into your life for only one purpose: to witness you not break. They do not need you to preach. They only need to see you calm before the storms that once shattered them. People do not believe because of words. They believe because of steadiness. And when they ask, how do I stop trembling? You will not lead them to philosophies or methods. You will lead them to me, not as an idea, but as a reality. A witness never says, I am at peace because I am strong. A witness says, I am at peace because I belong to the one who never fails. There will come a moment, not when you are strong, but on the day you are weakest, when my spirit will remind you, stand. And for someone collapsing somewhere in the distance, your standing will be enough for them to find their way home. For eternal peace does not live in emotion. It lives in the testimony that there is one who never lets go. When you live like that, you no longer merely carry peace. You become the evidence that peace from me does not decay, cannot be worn down by time, cannot be stolen by circumstance. It is the light of the New Jerusalem, the rhythm of eternity, the voice of mine still echoing through every generation. I am here. You have walked with me through storms you thought would drown you, through silences you thought were empty, through long nights when you thought I had abandoned you. You know the fear of moving forward without seeing the path ahead. You know the confusion of looking at the currents of life and wondering whether you are still going the right way. I have seen every moment when you wanted to return to the old life because its false certainty comforted you, when you wanted to seize control because you thought I was too slow, when you wanted to run because my silence made you doubt my love. But my child, I was always there, not as a scream demanding obedience, but as a quiet breath, a gentle stream, a warmth piercing the darkness. The peace I give does not merely soothe, it rebuilds your soul from the roots, so your feet will stand firm against every whirlwind of this world. Sometimes I allow you to walk through tests that human eyes call failure, not so that you may be ashamed, but so that you may understand that true peace is not built upon surface glory. A crown placed on the head of one who has never learned to stand is nothing but a heavy ornament, but a crown placed upon a soul that has walked through fire has waited in silence, has learned to wait on me, it becomes authority. The peace I give is not for the safety seeker, but for the one who dares to surrender. Do you know what surrender is? It is not compromise with fate, not gritting your teeth to endure, but slowly releasing the things you cannot hold, so that my hand has room to take hold of you. When you grip everything, you leave no space for peace. But when you open your hands, peace enters like light through a door, needing no force, no struggle, just a crack left ajar. I want you to recall every time you found peace in me, not because something outside changed, but because your heart changed direction. You do not walk through the storm because the storm weakened. You walk through it because your heart stopped seeking peace from the storm. Eternal peace is the habit of looking to me, not down at the water. When you look at the waves, you sink. When you look at me, you stand. That is not abstract philosophy. It is a spiritual law I wrote into the soul of every creature. Your gaze shapes your reality. The world believes only what it sees, but you do not belong to the world. You are one whom I lead by an invisible call. You do not live by outcomes you can grasp, but by the words I speak. Go. My peace operates in the very space between my command and your step. It does not wait for everything to be smooth. It appears the moment you decide to rise without proof. The times you believed I was silent were the times I was training your ears to discern my whisper in the wilderness. You wanted me to speak loudly, but I wanted you to hear deeply. You wanted me to pull you out of the storm, but I wanted you to learn how to stand within the storm without trembling. You wanted me to build a bridge, but I wanted you to learn that I, myself, am the ground beneath your feet. A child who clings to his father's coat when the rain begins has not yet understood love. But a grown child knows that even when the father does not hold his hand, he is still walking ahead to prepare the way. I want your heart to grow like this, not living in fear of outward signs, but in remembrance of the love I have already proven in your life. You have seen so many times when I protected you without you realizing it. I closed a door because I knew you would collapse if you walked through it. I removed a person from your life before they shattered your soul. I delayed a dream because its weight would have crushed you when your faith was not yet strong enough to bear it. You thought you were abandoned, but I was shielding you. You thought you were delayed, but I was laying foundation. You thought you were being held back, but I was keeping you from a precipice. You saw what you lost and you mourned. But I saw what you could not carry, and I smiled because you did not know I had just rescued you from what you called a blessing. Peace is not the state of having no pain. Peace is the awareness that pain does not control you. Peace is not hiding from fear. Peace is looking fear in the eyes without allowing it to define your worth. Peace is not the convenience of circumstances. Peace is the steadiness of the soul when circumstances collapse. People think peace is when the problems disappear. But I tell you, peace is when you know that the problem cannot destroy the mission I have placed within you. A child cries when the wind strikes its face, but a warrior smiles when the wind strikes his armor. Because the wind is no longer the enemy, but the reminder that the battle is about to begin, where I have ordained victory. When I grant peace, I do not hand you a shield to defend yourself. I hand you a scepter, so you may stand as a king in the desert. Souls who know me do not live by answers. They live by presence. The world will ask you, "How do you know God is with you?" And you will not reply, "Because I saw signs." You will say, "Because he was there when there were no signs at all." It was on the day when you were at your weakest that you felt a peace you could not explain that is the evidence. Not the calm after the victory, but the peace in the moment when you still do not know whether you have won or lost. The world can offer temporary comfort, but only I can give rest. People may help you forget fear for a moment, but only I can make you stop needing to run from fear at all. A time will come when you stand before things greater than you. Dreams I have placed in your heart. Responsibilities others believe you are not capable of bearing. You will tremble. You will want to turn back. You will want to become the child of the past, the one who only needed to live inside the safe zone. But I will stand there and ask you, do you want to live small so you never make mistakes? Or live large so you may reveal? Me peace does not call you to shrink, it calls you to open your arms to destiny. You cannot see the entire road, but I can. You do not understand why I lead you into places no one imagines, but I do. True peace does not make you sit quietly in a corner waiting for time to pass. True peace makes you step out, build life, love people, forgive, rise, and continue. When you understand that I am the source, every limitation becomes opportunity. Engrave this into your heart. You are not a hunter of peace. You are the bearer of peace. I have positioned your soul as a shelter in the storm of the age, as a pillar of cloud in the desert, not because you know more, but because you trust me more. The world will attempt to steal your peace through sudden events, hurtful words, challenges, uncertainty. But the peace I placed within you is not on the surface. It rests at the deepest part of your heart where every storm is powerless. When others look for refuge, they will come to you because your soul has become a harbor. You are not the one running for answers. You are the one who brings the answer to those who do not yet know me. And when your journey comes to its end, you will look back and understand what I have always said. Peace is not the gift I give you as a reward after you overcome hardship. It is the weapon I hand you to overcome hardship. Peace is not the conclusion. Peace is the beginning, not the stopping point, but the foundation, not the shelter from battle, but the armor I place upon you so you may enter the battlefield with the calm gaze of one who has seen the victory long before the sword is drawn. You will know that I have stood in every breath you took, in every trembling heartbeat, in every wandering step, in every moment you believed you had lost everything. I have never left you, not once, not for a second, not for a single breath. And the peace you carry today is the eternal testimony that I was there and that I am still here. Thank you for listening to today's message. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we may receive the living words. Build unwavering faith and walk in the boundless love of the Lord. Amen.